Welcome back to the Charismatic Voice. I have long wanted to dive in further to the vocals of Simone Simons, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to be listening to Epica's performance of Consign To Oblivion, the version that's live at the Zenith, and it's the official music video too. It looks really cool, I gotta say. And I did a little bit of research on this, and the very first thing that I realized was that this is far deeper than I can really hope to analyze in one sitting. So we're going to try and touch just the surface of it. It's fascinating to me that they use influences from Mayan civilization for it. I think that's going to be very interesting to hear. I'm really curious how they're going to put sound to that. And additionally, I understood from some of my notes that this is the third time that we're hearing a recurring theme on the album. It just sounds like this huge epic journey, and I'm really excited to hear it. So let's get to it.
The last one for tonight, but you know we always come back to Paris. Because we love Paris. Last one for tonight, everybody you know the drill. Open up in the middle to create the wall of Epica.
Whoa. I gotta say, the sound on this is really nice. The live performance sound has been captured extremely well. Loved that series of drums there, and I love the bed of strings as well. I really dig symphonic metal and how that blends in to, well, blends symphony and metal, really classical and metal. It's very delightful to my ears.
Oh yeah, that looks good. Later on, I'll count down from 3 before we go, alright? First, hold! 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 3, 2, 1, go!
What are they doing?
3, 2, 1, go!
It's like body slamming?
3, 2, 1, go!
My brain is just like, well, don't get sick, don't hurt, please be careful. That is a little intense. I mean, this isn't even the music. We're just talking about the crowd here, and there was fire that just happened on stage, but the crowd, they just ran into each other. They literally hit each other. Like, is it begging for concussions? I'm not sure what this is. This is kind of fun. And I guess this is what she was directing at the beginning, this idea of like make a big split in the center. And I thought they were going to walk down it though. I don't understand.
Hold! 3, 2, 1, go!
Okay, that's an intense start. Okay, there's so many, there's so much awesomeness that's happening. That's a technical term. Awesomeness, right? I loved this beautiful classical opening. Her voice had a lightness to it that was beautiful. It felt epic, which suits the band name, Epica. It definitely has lovely classical training in there. And then all of a sudden we get these harsh vocals as well. But not just harsh vocals from one person, but harsh vocals from two people. And I have notes. I have notes on names. Okay, so you have Mark. I think he was one of the original founders of Epica too. I think he's the one that just screamed into the microphone that Simone was holding. And then you also have Isaac, who I believe was also doing harsh vocals. If I've gotten those mixed up, let me know. But that was so cool that you had two guys right in a row that did this, and then right after this like beautiful angelic intro. Let's go back and hear that intro again. Nice galaxy. Oh, this is super beautiful, and I love the complexity of it. I love the layers of it. It was really fun to have those two screams side by side. Um, I I guess I usually think of like duets or harmony as having maybe two different people singing specific notes at the same time, but I'm kind of curious about duets within harsh vocals a little bit more now at this point. Like, obviously, Mark's scream sounded higher than Isaac's gutturals were sounding. So anyhow, I was very curious about that. Is that something that exists? Do people harmonize with screams? I don't know. But I really love hearing Simone's voice kind of just hovering on the top of all of this. She has a beautiful, almost Disney-like sound to me. The vibrato is on the faster side, very healthy. Again, light. It's not super wide in any way. It is going towards classical, but it's not that really thick sound that I would often associate with like an opera house project out to 4,000 people kind of singer. She's got a microphone, so she can have this lighter, almost more pure sound. It's just really beautiful in this music. Let's go back and catch this transition. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what makes a sound operatic or classical versus something that has more of a pop styling or even like belting, though that's also a little different. Um, there are two terms that often are used when describing these kinds of sounds that are usually put into juxtaposition. And one is twang and one is loft. Now, that comes from a very specific school of voice. This is Estel voice training, really. And it's been applied to tons of other schools as well at this point, because it is a pretty universal way to talk about voices in all kinds of genre. So twang is where you get much more sound here. It's very much associated with country music. And loft is where you have more dome. It feels, that's very much associated with opera, essentially. When you have more classical music, what usually happens is there's more space kind of in that pharyngeal cavity, a lot more space in the top of that area as well. It's just wider overall in this area, and that creates more swirling around, if you will. A lot more warmth can come into the sound from that as well. And if that area is more narrow, or it also can be due to various tongue positions, you can get some more twang in the sound. It's like buzz. Often opera will talk about having chiaroscuro, which is like bright and dark at the same time, which might be a balance of having those as well. So if you're just like purely lofty, sometimes it can get too swallowed. And if you're just purely twangy, sometimes it can get too nasal. And this is all to say that when you have that kind of dominess that feels very classical, sometimes it can be hard to get some more of that straightness and twang and laser into it. It's something that a lot of opera singers struggle with. And I love the way that Simone in this section tilted towards having just a little bit more of a pop musical theater kind of sound. I want to go back to that and appreciate it a little bit more. Right there. Oh man, I nailed that. Poof! Right, good time. So some people will say she's doing a little bit of mix there. That just basically means that she's adding a little bit more thyroid engagement, essentially. And she's got this beautiful headiness, though. So this is what we would call her head voice. And I love that she is also keeping that mouth pretty open. Like it's not like crazy, crazy open, but you can hear that there's a little bit of vowel adjustment back here because she's singing fairly high. She needs to have a little more opening. That has to do with formants, and we'll save that voice lesson for another day. Let's go back. I greatly appreciate this mic holding while he's just screaming his guts out, right? That's so much fun. Man, shout out to the team that captured this as well. The video shots are fantastic. The audio is really clear. This is a fantastic video of a live performance. It's just really, really well done. I love the fire effects. It's really cool. Oh, and I love the way that we have these patterns coming up. So this definitely feels progressive. It's always evolving, but sometimes when that's happening, people, or at least me, I can sometimes sort of lose where my my base is. And when I have a couple of patterns to latch onto, it's helpful. And it like says like, oh, this is where home might be. And then I know where we're evolving from, essentially. I like that. Oh, let's go back a little bit because this, yeah, look at that. Oh my gosh. That should be their thumbnail. Those drums though. That is such a tricky balance, what she's doing. Because if she adds a little bit of weight that goes into opera zone, it's going to feel like super duper opera. And instead she has to add a little bit of weight and just tilt it towards that musical theater zone. It's like the difference between like having it 180 and saying, okay, I'm going to go to like 160 degrees, right? So I could do that. And that will help keep it with loft and maybe tilt it, maybe like even towards 160. But if she adds just a little bit of extra weight or a little too much loft here, it could go boop and it could totally fall back on her, suddenly sound very swallowed, lose the beautiful light tone quality she has. And since she's adding a little bit more of that, it's like just a teensy bit more pressure when she's going into slightly more pop styling. If she made a mistake and just added the pressure in the wrong way, added that loud, just a teensy bit of weight, it would be so easy for it to slip back into the wrong spot, but it's not. It's just really quite nice and very careful. I like it. Love that toss up. I saw a little bit of breath movement in there too, and it was down low, which made me very, very happy to see. I don't see her shoulders moving. She's keeping it pretty serene. This is very important when you have longer phrases, especially this kind of phrase. If she were to suddenly charge a bunch of air at her vocal folds, it would create vibrato that might be a little bit less steady as well. She's got that really quick, narrow vibrato, and we don't want to disturb that. It's beautiful and perfect just in that like very careful placement right now. And if she really did charge a bunch of air underneath here too, she might get a sound that didn't have that lightness to it as well. So it's very good to see her breathing down low. She's got more breath control as a result of really keeping that low. In addition, she has a belt here. And I've had a lot of people recently asking me about these bigger belts or corsets and how that might help with singing. There is some truth to this. Some opera singers will train in corsets at times because you need, as part of your breath control, you need to think about staying expanded within the lungs. So like keeping that rib cage expanded and also keeping the diaphragm down so that the air doesn't just go whoosh on its way out and suddenly escape. So this kind of belt can actually be really useful for singing into, because some people will do what they call leaning into the belt to help them experience that sensation of staying expanded. So anyhow, I saw her breathing down around that belt and I thought, oh, I wonder if she's doing that leaning into it. Let's go back just a little bit. Good job tuning those too. Just a second, I'm gonna check out. Oh, we're gonna turn that on. It's turned off. I'm gonna check out where those notes are because it sounds to me like she's singing in an area that might be in the passaggio. If that is, I'm gonna have some massive. Yeah. Oh man, now that I know what pitches those are, I feel for her. Those are evil pitches that's hanging out in this area called the passaggio, right? It has a name because that's how evil it is. Passaggio just is like a zone of passage, essentially. But particularly in a woman's voice, she's hanging out in the area that's called the second passaggio. The first passaggio is where you transition from chest to head register. Some people will say chest to mix, kind of depending on where you're coming from, what your background is. And then there's another transition that's higher where you go up into like this really true head floaty voice. And that is right where she's singing, is this like zone of passage. Often it's about a fourth. There's just a bunch of different notes all in there that all have to be adjusted very carefully, and those are the hardest notes to tune. In the entire voice, you usually see voices break down in tuning or in technical difficulties. If there's going to be a problem, that's probably going to happen in the passaggio. So now that I know that she's singing that area, I'm just like, oh man, massive respect. That's like my least favorite area to sing in, period. Woo! Beautiful control by Brother. Wait, that was like, wasn't that a theme from? Yeah, that's the French national, and it's a French national theme that he just played on the piano. A little harken to it, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, you guys fucking rock! Thank you so much for this fantastic evening! We hope to see you all soon again!
I love the brass in the background of this as well. It gives that more epic robustness. I love hearing the full orchestra with them as well. This combination of sounds is wonderful. It provides more frequencies and textures within those frequencies that we can grab onto, and the way it's filling out the whole possible hearing range, really, that to me creates an even more epic overall sense. I really love this, and I've come to love symphonic metal because of that great usage of so many sounds. The fire things that are going like this are so cool, and I would be so scared that one would fall over and burn me or destroy the hair. I don't know. Everybody in metal, not everyone, a lot of people in metal seem to have long hair, and I understand that there's supposed to be some way to protect their hair from fire on stage, but oh boy, I mean, that had to have gone wrong at some point. It's such a cool effect. I'm going to ask Tink the Tech about that effect. If you guys don't know who he is, he's a super awesome reactor, also here on YouTube, and he talks about a lot of the gear that we see on stage. So anyhow, I'm going to ask him about that because I love this like crossfire thing. That's so cool. Oh, let's go back a little bit. There was a cool thing. I love. Whoa! There's so much is happening. Oh, it's so cool. So many movements. I love getting a little harpsichord in there. So you have this suddenly like this more like hoity-toity element that has arrived. And then I also loved hearing those screams, and all of a sudden he did one that I imagine had like more tight face, maybe with some more teeth that would help the overall frequency of the scream raise as well. It was a really cool additional sound within the scream. Whoa, what's happening? What? Is he like riding a skateboard with the keyboard? Yeah, he's rolling it. Whee! You know how he's rolling it? It's because it's a Roland keyboard. Oh, okay, that was terrible. man, the time signatures in that section were so good. You had like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And it was just switching back and forth, and I didn't feel like it ever got like really married to one time signature. Like as soon as you were like, oh yeah, we're sticking with this one, it moved to the next one. Or maybe it stayed with the last one just a little longer than you expected. I loved that switch between, and I loved the synchronization of the band with that as well. Was that Latin? I'm looking back at my ears. I'm like trying to find this. Wait, no. We're gonna go check for this. Yes, I think it's Latin. Oblivisci tempta quod didi, well, it depends on what version of Latin for how do you say this, but didicisti or didicisti. Interesting. I really like that they've made this call back to Latin here. It felt to me, again, it feels Carmina Burana. I make this reference a lot, and that's because I think it is one of the staple songs in classical repertoire that so much modern music harkens back to. If you have not heard Carmina Burana, you should go and listen to it. So many modern bands pull from that as an inspiration. Really cool thing to go back to. It has that primal, epic nature going on, and it works for Epica. Cool. Okay. The subdivisions were killer. I'm sitting here thinking, okay, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. What happened? Where did my last 3 go? Where did my 2 go? I'm gonna count along with this because this is fascinating. The way that it interrupts makes me want to hear it again and again and again. I'm like, no, but I had a pattern. Let me go back to that pattern. Wait for it. 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. So that might be a 10-8 time signature, possibly. There's other ways you could write that as well. But often when you have an 8 on the bottom, you get subdivisions of 3. But because you've got essentially like 3 groupings of that and then a leftover note 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3. It's so it's very fascinating. You don't hear much music in that kind of time signature. Love the choral writing.
Come on! Open your eyes. We're not in paradise. How can you say this West is killing me? The pain of drag. Life is not what it seems. I've captured time. Sometime made this all auspicious world.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm gonna stop in here, but it felt like it was like a circle of doom that was happening in the middle of the audience, but also in his voice. It's crazy. He's going over and he's really using different mouth shapes to help affect the pitch or the pitch center of his scream. It's very fascinating to me. It feels like very demonic. I like, and this goes with the words, open your eyes. We're not in paradise. How can't you see the stress is killing me? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So time made us all hostages without mercy. Oh, this is so cool. And I fear for the safety of many of the people that are in that circle. It almost sounded like there were two people screaming in there at one point, but I think this is all just Isaac. And it's interesting to me. There are times when I think, oh, that's going to be some false fold or aria-epigotic folds, but honestly, he just keeps like moving around, and it feels like it's very fluid and how he's moving. So I would love to know which part of his vocal tract he is using to create this distortion, because it's very hard for me to pin down. I think they're saying low, and that's exciting to me because the word low has an O vowel in it, and O tends to have more extension of the lips forward, which creates a longer vocal tract, which can create a deeper sound. O. And if you really extend forward and you think about your voice box or your larynx being a little bit deeper, oh, you can get like a much lower sound. So it's a very good word for finding a low overall pitch center for this kind of distortion. Oh goodness, I think this is close to the end. I need to talk about Simone's placement right here. She's gone down in pitch. So she's hanging out below that area I was talking about earlier, the passaggio, right? She's down below it. And it is easier to mix in that area and get a sound that is going to have a little bit more pop in it, essentially. So it's going to have some more forward placement overall. And I like this. I feel like she's just very good at tracking the placement through her voice, depending on the style she wants to be in. And I think it was really smart to set something that they wanted to have a more pop feel, or it's not really truly pop. It's just that like forward placement that we would associate with pop or musical theater. It's really smart to have these on lower pitches, because that, like if we were to bring that really far forward in the top ranges that she was singing, there's a chance that it would go shrill. It'll like either have like ethereal lightness and fluffiness, or go a little bit towards shrill if we're way up there in the top. So bringing this down to this range is super smart, and it works very well in her voice. It's also just a super pleasant sound. Like, let's be real. Girl sounds beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, we're going to go back to a little bit of that. It's just a nice voice. Glitter! It's shiny. No. Confetti?
Merci beaucoup, Paris!
Fun. I'm so glad that I finally got to hear Epica in much more depth. This was really delightful. I feel like there are so many things that were being coordinated. This was truly an epic song. Had so many movements to it. I love the way that we heard so many different people featured in it. The band is solid. Wow, their time signature negotiation was really on point. Love that composition too. I loved the overall evolution of the piece as it went by. And I loved hearing evolution into different kinds of singing types as well. They're really making use of so many different possible sounds. In your harsh vocals, different sounds in that. And your clean vocals, different kinds of sounds and technique and style from Simone. And then you also are bringing together orchestra and classical instruments and metal instruments. It's just really fantastic. It's a huge array of sound that they've blended together in a very satisfying way. Yeah, it was really lovely to hear. Thank you to everyone for recommending Epica for a long time. And I hope I'll get to hear more of them. So please make some more recommendations down below in the comments. If you put down what song you'd like to hear and you give us a link, that can be super helpful. Upvote the ones that you like the most. And if there's a link that helps me out with finding the right video, this was a fantastic video to have a first time listening to of this song. So thank you so much, everybody. You can find us here every single Monday, Tuesday, and Friday live on YouTube while we're doing a premiere. You can also find us on Patreon. And if you want to learn about singing or music in general, you can find courses about that at thecharismaticvoice.com. See you somewhere soon.